Freedom of speech is dead, Destiny. Freedom of speech is done because the government tells us we have freedom of speech. It's in the Constitution, and we do not.
The problem right now of freedom of speech doesn't even come from the government. The problem comes from private companies. So that's the opposite problem. Right now, the issue with freedom of speech has to do with capitalism more so than it does with the government. Facebook and Twitter and all these companies aren't government institutions. These things are institutions that are private companies. If anything, the government tried to stop that when Donald Trump and when Paul Ryan and when Jim Jordan, I think, and others. What?
What are you about to say? You just listen more policies.
No. I'm saying that these were guys that tried to push for like Section 230 reforms on some of these private companies and were able to do it. So in that sense, you can't say like, wow, look at what the government did to us. Well, hold on. The government was actually trying to fight against some of the censorship that was coming from corporate entities like Facebook and Twitter. Like, these things aren't government entities. These are corporate entities. And the government was fighting against them when it was under Trump.
Name one good politician.
I'm not interested in individual politicians. I'm interested in the policies that they pass. So Biden pushing like the Build Back Better program, I think, is a good policy. The infrastructure bill that we passed.
You trust people like Hillary Clinton?
I don't trust people like Hillary Clinton. I trust the institutions that these people inhabit.
What is okay? So who do you trust in the government?
I don't trust individuals in the government. We have institutions and checks and balances to keep these individual players
honest. What institutions do you trust?
I trust the institution of the federal government. I trust the institution of the FDA. Like, I trust all of the independent academics and all of the independent universities and all of the independent private companies.
Okay, so you're saying
no, it's all part of it. If you're going to try to ask me, like, would you trust Fauci on this one thing? Fuck no. I don't trust any individual. That's the whole reason why the American government is set the way that it is. There's a huge checks and balances on every single part of our government where everybody's incentivized to catch everybody else fucking up. So no, I don't trust one person in the government. I trust the entire institution and the institutions that hold each other accountable. That's the whole point. Like, you don't think, here's a question.
It's crazy to me that you said that you could trust the whole government, but you can't name me one politician that you think is good.
That's how institutions work.
Okay, if you grew up in project housing and the water doesn't work, why would you think that voting on a specific bill matters at all? Because they put specific people in those buildings. How could you have bigger faith in something like Biden and this? Like, all of this is just like noise. Unless you're white. If you're white, then you're like,
I understand.
The policy's good. Like,
I can understand, but like,
that, it's just meaningless.
Let's look at the flip side. So then let's look at the reality. You've got project housing, okay? Fuck voting. Voting doesn't do anything. Who's the most likely person to say that? Minorities, young people, poor people. Well, who's left voting? We've got
rich people,
old people,
and rich people,
white people, and rich people. If those are the only people voting in local elections, why the fuck do you think anybody's going to care about marijuana laws? Wait, why the fuck do you think why the fuck do you think anybody's going to fix the hood, right? If the only people voting are Joe Schmo, who's 75 years old and golfs every Saturday, Sunday, you think that the hood is getting fixed? Of course not. You're creating a self-perpetuating system where the only problems that are going to be addressed are the problems of old, rich, white dudes, because they're the only ones that bother to show up and vote. And you better believe these motherfuckers vote. They vote religiously.
Support it how?
Support it as in we should protect the sovereignty of other countries in Europe that are being invaded and having territory.
How are you going to do that?
With my tax dollars? What do you mean? What are you asking? As an individual American, I guess it's based on who you vote for.
That's it.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, of course. The people that you vote for are going to determine the policies that are enacted by your country. That are going to determine how your country...
there was no vote for Ukraine. We didn't get a vote for anybody who's had a different opinion on Ukraine. And ultimately, if we did, Putin still wants to go to war. It doesn't make a difference.
We don't vote for Ukraine in the same way that we don't have a direct democracy vote on every single issue that comes across the country. But we do vote for overarching ideologies when it comes time to dealing with other countries. So Trump, broadly speaking, was like an isolationist kind of guy. He didn't really want to mess with other countries, you know, even though he bombed Syria. But like, Trump would say like, oh, I don't want to do this. And people would say Hillary Clinton is the red line. You know, she is more hawkish. I think that when you're voting for somebody like Biden or voting for somebody like Trump, you're broadly in mind and keeping track of like all of these different positions they have. Some are more important and at some points in time than others. But I mean, that's kind of how our system works. We can't vote for every single issue individually.
Do you really believe in politicians? Do you think they actually care about stuff like abortion, or are they all just saying stuff on TV so that they get more power?
I think they're saying and doing what they need to get elected, which is good. That's what politicians should do.
Exactly. So then why do you even vote? Like,
well, because if you're voting for people because abortion is important to you, then chances are they're going to do something to make abortion legal because that's what's going to get them reelected. So I think that they do things to get more power, and more power to a politician is winning elections. And that's what you want them going after power for, because winning elections means most people voted for them, right? Isn't that what you want a politician to go after? You don't want a politician that wants less power. What does that mean? They're just not doing anything in office because they don't care if they win re-election or not?
It's just to make us feel good and feel involved when ultimately it doesn't do anything.
That's like saying that like going to the gym is a waste of time because I went once and I didn't get shredded. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But like, Trump winning that election is why abortion is gone.
Voting and hoping that 300 other million people have the same ideas as you is almost pointless.
I mean, if you think that, then I guess you just don't have to vote. But then you're just like doubling the power of the guy next to you who disagrees with you, who's voting otherwise. The obsession with like, you're the sheep, you're the sheep, you're the sheep. Like, come on, dude. Like, You guys are all like, you're literally one-to-one copying whatever you heard on the last like Joe Rogan / Tim Pool. Like, why are you acting like you're any less? Like, come on, dude.
So it really has nothing to do with science. It's just compulsory behavior. Everybody has to just comply.
So we figure out what's true or what's not true in different ways, right? So we have like epistemic differences, right? How we determine what's true or false is done in different ways. When he says things like, oh, people are just being sheep of the government by following without thinking about it. Yeah, that's actually kind of true. It's true for me. I don't usually think about it. In society today, everything is so complicated and there's so many things going on around you. To some extent, you kind of have to become a sheep around a lot of different things because you don't have time to research every single fucking different thing that is impacting your life. When I go to a restaurant and they hand me a glass of water, I'm a sheep. I'm assuming the water is healthy. I'm assuming it's not poison. I'm assuming you got it out of a tap. I'm assuming somebody didn't off into it. Like, I'm actually a total sheep. I'm gonna assume whatever you give me is safe to eat and I'm gonna eat it, right? That's true of every single like interaction that we have in society today. We just like implicitly believe almost every complex system we interact with. When somebody sells me an apartment, I'm assuming that the AC is gonna work, the electricity is gonna work, the fridge is gonna work. I might not even inspect all the plumbing and I'll never do this because I'm a sheep. I'll believe you. You tell me the shit's gonna flush, the toilet's gonna work for 10 months. I'm assuming it's gonna flush for 10 months, right? You follow that to its logical extreme, right? The government tells you something because either the FDA or the EPA or whatever mandated it, like you're a sheep for believing it. Yeah, of course I'm a sheep. I'm going to fall. I haven't read through every single health restriction or every single fucking study or every single thing. Yeah, of course. There's always going to be this kind of implicit buy-in to whatever complex system you're working with, you know?
The most power you have is one vote in a country of over 300 million.
That's how our project works. How else should it go? Like, how else could you possibly do it?
Oh, investing that much energy into like learning about all this stuff and everything is really meaningless because your vote is so fucking useless.
I mean, you can influence your friends and family around you. You can work at a local level. If you work at a local level, you've got a lot more political power than just your one vote. You can go to your city council meetings. You can talk to people about like housing
local level.
Yeah.
City council. You really think that's a good use of people's time?
That is a better use of people's time than doing anything.
Okay, I'm saying people should focus on themselves. And you're saying like, oh, you can't just tell people to pull themselves up by the bootstrap. You're saying that people should invest their time into local elections?
First of all, local elections are more important than federal ones if you care about things like criminal justice, right? President can't do shit about your chief of police or anything related to that, right? That's all coming at the local level. If you've got problems with like affordable housing being built, if you've got problems with how your state runs, like Medicare or Medicaid, like these are things that are going to come down to your local, state level, or sometimes city level in terms of policing, like politicians. Yeah, of course that's important. But like, listen, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't work on yourself too. That's like even arguably working on yourself is even more important than your political engagement. But it doesn't have to be one or the other, I think.
I just think ultimately it's a huge waste of time. And I this is coming from experience. Like I used to canvass and shit like that for Bernie Sanders. I used to knock on doors. I used to do those phone calls and shit like that. And I'm like, bro, I just wasted fucking days and hours going to campaigns and looking this shit up. Mm-hmm. And I don't really have an effect on it.
Well,
it's just making me feel good.
You say that
it's making me feel good. Like it's making me feel like I'm involved in something. But ultimately, I have no power. They have all the power.
You only feel that way because Bernie Sanders lost, though, right? Imagine if you were, instead of advocating for Bernie Sanders, what if you were one of the guys advocating for Trump? You probably feel like you got a whole bunch done. You probably feel like your time was really well invested because your guy won. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you don't get to win.
No, I felt that way because don't you think that the DNC rigged it for Hillary in 2016?
Of course not.
No?
No, Hillary had like way more support than Bernie did at every part of that election cycle.